Home is where comfort should live, where doors close behind you and peace begins. But sometimes, the place you trust most becomes the stage for something unthinkable. It begins with a chilling 911 call.
Everywhere, and I can't find my voice.
A panicked voice whispers about an open door, scattered belongings, and a missing loved one. Moments later, two masked figures step from the shadows. A struggle erupts, a gun goes off, and blood stains the entryway. By the time police arrive, a woman lies wounded, a gun beside her. But the real shock waits inside the bedroom, where the body of 66-year-old Thomas Weddle is found bound, wrapped, and lifeless. At first glance, it looks like a violent break-in. But nothing is stolen, nothing is ransacked. And soon, investigators realize this isn't the work of strangers. It's a mystery that points much closer to home. The woman who called for help isn't just a survivor. She may be hiding the truth of what really happened that night. And as detectives peel back the layers of her story, they uncover a tangled web of lies, betrayal, and a double life stretching back years. This is the case of Deborah Frazier, where love, trust, and loyalty are shattered, and the line between victim and suspect blurs in ways no one could have expected.
Welcome to the Case File. Here, every crime has a story, every mystery leaves a trail, and every detail could be the difference between truth and deception. From assassinations that shook the nation, to manhunts that gripped entire cities, we uncover the raw, unfiltered events behind the headlines. These are not just stories. They are lives, choices, and consequences. The files are open, the cases are real, and the truth is waiting to be found. This is the Case File. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Maybe he fell asleep early. But as the hours stretch on, the silence grows heavier, until Deborah knows something isn't right. Their relationship hasn't always been steady. On again, off again. Arguments, reconciliations, and everything in between. But through all of it, Tom never ignored her. Not for this long. At 66 years old, Tom was reliable, steady, and always quick to answer. By the afternoon of August 10, 2023, worry drives Deborah back to his apartment. The moment she steps inside, unease washes over her. The door is unlocked. A cleaning woman is finishing up, but something feels wrong. Deborah notices the apartment in disarray, items scattered, furniture shifted, as if someone had turned the place upside down. Her first thought is robbery. Her heart pounds as she moves further inside. The bedroom light is on. The air feels heavy, charged with the presence of someone unseen. She reaches for her phone and dials 911. The dispatcher's voice comes through, calm but firm. Asterisk, where's your emergency? Asterisk. Deborah explains in a rush. There's chaos everywhere, the door was open and she can't find Tom. And then, before the dispatcher can respond, something happens that freezes her in place. Two masked men step out from the shadows of the bedroom. Deborah stumbles back, stunned. One man is in a green hoodie and jeans, his face hidden by a ski mask. The other pushes past her without a word. She barely has time to react before a gun is pointed in her direction. Her voice trembles as she stays on the line with 911.
Okay, ma'am. Are you inside the apartment? Oh, no.
Fear has already taken over. The struggle is quick, chaotic. A shot rings out, echoing through the apartment. Deborah cries out, she's been hit in the leg. The call grows frantic as she tells the dispatcher she's bleeding, and the suspects are gone. When police arrive minutes later, they find Deborah in the entryway, wounded, the gun lying on the floor beside her. Officers rush her to the hospital, but before they leave, they move deeper into the apartment. What they find in the bedroom changes everything. Wrapped tightly in a comforter and layers of trash bags is the body of Thomas Weddle. Duct tape seals the coverings and Velcro straps lie nearby, suggesting that whoever did this dragged his body across the apartment floor. Shock ripples through the investigators. The scene doesn't look like a robbery at all. Nothing of value is missing. Tom's firearms remain untouched, his belongings neatly in place. There's no sign of forced entry, no evidence of a random break-in. Instead, the evidence whispers something more chilling. This was not the work of strangers. Whoever killed Tom likely knew him. And that realization turns the case in a very different direction. At the hospital, investigators gather around Deborah Frazier's bed. She's pale, shaken, and still reeling from the gunshot wound in her leg. Between gasps and pauses, she explains what happened inside the apartment. Two masked men. One with a hoodie, the other too quick to identify. They appeared suddenly, pushed past her, and vanished. She insists she never got a clear look. To her, it all happened in seconds. Detectives press her. Why was the door unlocked? Why did nothing seem stolen? Deborah shrugs off the questions, repeating what she saw. But the answers raise more questions than they solve. Then she brings up someone else, someone from Tom's past. Thomas Weddle, the gentle grandfather and skilled woodworker, wasn't living the bachelor life Deborah made it seem. He was still technically married. His estranged wife, Deborah says, was a woman with anger issues, a history of infidelity, and plenty of reasons to despise him. Could she have sent someone to hurt Tom? Deborah leans into the possibility, painting a picture of a bitter spouse with a GRU. Deborah insists she wasn't home the night before. She tells detectives she stayed with a friend named Johnny, passing the time with video games and long walks. On paper it sounds innocent enough. But when police track Johnny down, a different story starts to emerge. Johnny explains that Deborah called him out of the blue on the evening of August 9th. She seemed upset, withdrawn, and told him she didn't want to talk about it. He picked her up in his white Prius and the two spent the night together. But the details he shares don't quite match Deborah's timeline. The inconsistencies catch investigators' attention. And when they dig further, they uncover something even more startling. Johnny thought Deborah worked as a live-in nurse. He believed that Tom Weddle wasn't her partner, but her patient. To him, their connection was purely professional. He never knew she was romantically involved with the man he now hears about on the news. The realization shakes the case wide open. For years, Deborah has been living two lives. With Tom, she played the role of girlfriend, sharing a home and a life. With Johnny, she presented herself as a caregiver, free and unattached. Neither man knew about the other. Now detectives see her in a new light, not as a woman caught in the crossfire, but as someone weaving a tangled web of lies. And the more they investigate, the more the threads begin to unravel. Deborah's story is falling apart. Her alibi no longer feels solid. The masked intruders she described may never have existed. And as detectives follow the trail, they begin to suspect the truth is far darker than anyone imagined. But the real breakthrough comes when investigators look into Deborah's past, and discover Tom Weddle isn't the first man close to her to end up dead. Detectives begin tracing Deborah Frazier's story backward, searching for patterns that might explain what happened to Thomas Weddle. What they find is something no one expects. During a search of Tom's apartment, investigators lift fingerprints that don't belong to him or to Deborah. They match them to a man named David Eugene Grantham. On paper, he seems like a promising lead, someone with a history of theft and brushes with the law. But when detectives attempt to track him down, they discover an eerie coincidence. David Grantham is dead. He died in 2021. And the person who reported his death to authorities? Deborah Frazier. The revelation rocks the investigation. Two men both connected to Deborah. Both ending up dead under unusual circumstances. And both leaving behind more questions than answers. Detectives now have to ask, is this a chain of bad luck, or is there a deadly pattern forming around Deborah Frazier? What started as a story of a terrified woman ambushed in her own home is beginning to look like something far more calculated. And as police dig deeper into Deborah's finances, her relationships, and her movements in the hours before Tom's death, they realize she may not only be hiding secrets, she may also be hiding a motive. With Deborah's past raising red flags, detectives turn their focus to what might have pushed her to kill. The answer comes from an unlikely place, her phone. In the days leading up to Tom Weddle's death, Deborah made a series of strange searches online. Questions about how long gunshot residue lingers on skin. Inquiries about how to remove it. And even more alarming, messages she sent to herself from a fake email account, posing as a fraud investigator from Tom's bank. To investigators, the meaning is clear. Deborah wasn't just covering her tracks after the fact. She was preparing ahead of time. Their suspicions grow when they examine Tom and Deborah's joint bank account. A once comfortable balance had dwindled down to just a couple $1,000s. Investigators begin to wonder, had Deborah misused the funds? Was she desperate to keep Tom from finding out? Adding to the suspicion, Johnny tells detectives something even more unsettling. A few weeks before Tom's death, Deborah asked him to play a part in her scheme. She wanted Johnny to call Tom, pretend to be a bank representative, and convince him that his account was under investigation for fraud. Johnny never thought much of it at the time. But now, in the shadow of Tom's murder, the request takes on a much darker meaning. Piece by piece, Deborah's story is falling apart. The masked intruders, the forced entry, the frantic 911 call, it all begins to look like an elaborate lie. And the more evidence investigators collect, the more it points to Deborah herself as the one who pulled the trigger. But the most damning discovery is yet to come. Forensic testing of the very items used to hide Tom's body will leave little doubt about who killed him. Detectives have heard Deborah's story. They've chased down her alibis. They've pieced together her double life. But now it's time for science to speak. Forensic analysts carefully examine the scene inside Tom Weddle's apartment. The comforter, the trash bags, the duct tape, and the Velcro straps used to drag his body, each item is swabbed and tested. The results leave little room for doubt. DNA traces match only one person, Deborah Frazier. Her hair, her skin cells, her fingerprints are all over the materials used to conceal Tom's body. No evidence of masked intruders. No sign of a second set of hands. Just Deborah. The murder weapon itself, a .22 caliber handgun, also seals the picture. It belonged to Tom. And yet it carries Deborah's DNA, the same gun she used to shoot herself in the leg, a move investigators now believe was meant to stage the crime scene. With every test result, Deborah's story crumbles further. There was no robbery. There was no home invasion. The trail of evidence leads back to her and her alone. Detectives confront her with the findings. They lay out the inconsistencies, the lies, and the mounting proof. But Deborah denies it all, insisting she loved Tom, insisting she doesn't know who could have done it. But the evidence doesn't lie. And as investigators press harder, they know they're no longer speaking to a survivor of violence. They're looking into the eyes of the person who caused it. The only question left is why. What could drive Deborah Frazier to kill the man she claimed to love, and then cover it up in such a cold, deliberate way? By now, detectives have built an airtight case. The timeline, the forensics, the financial motive, and the staged crime scene all point to one person. Deborah Frazier is arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In court, prosecutors paint a devastating picture for the jury. They describe a woman living far beyond her means, draining her partner's accounts, and then creating a fake fraud investigation to cover her tracks. When the lies began to unravel, prosecutors argue, Deborah made a decision. Tom had to die. The jury listens to every detail. The 911 call. The staged gunshot wound. The searches about gunshot residue. And the DNA that linked her directly to the cover-up. When it's Deborah's turn to speak, she maintains her innocence. She insists she loved Tom, that she never wanted him dead. But the evidence tells a story far stronger than her words. After days of testimony, the jury delivers its verdict. Guilty. Deborah Frazier is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Tom Weddle's family, the verdict brings some measure of closure, though the pain of losing him will never truly fade. His loved ones remember him as kind, steady, and deeply generous. A man who trusted too much and paid the ultimate price. For investigators, the case stands as a chilling reminder. Sometimes the danger doesn't come from a stranger lurking outside, but from the person closest to home. In the end, the story of Tom Weddle and Deborah Frazier is one of trust destroyed. A man who opened his life, his home, and his heart found himself betrayed in the most brutal way possible. The evidence proved what Deborah tried so hard to hide. The staged intruders, the faked gunshot wound, the false emails, and the desperate cover-up. All of it revealed a cold calculation driven by greed and lies. For the investigators who pieced the case together, it was a stark reminder that even the most convincing performance can't survive the truth. For Tom's family, it was justice, though bittersweet, for a loved one who can never be replaced. And for those watching, it's a chilling lesson. Sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from the unknown, it comes from the person you thought you could trust the most. This case is closed, but the questions it leaves behind linger. How far will someone go to protect their secrets? And how well can we ever really know the people closest to us? For more true crime stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories just like this one.